Hi YouTube, I hope you're doing good. I'm doing pretty good. We might have a little bit of noise I expect coming up here in a little bit, so maybe. Otherwise, we'll work through it like we do sometimes, or I do. So, um, yeah, I was thinking about, I've talked about it before, but head injuries and mental health issues. And I know I have at least one psychiatrist that watches me, and he specializes in, well, I wouldn't say just specializes in narcissism, but he wrote the main book that is being used in academia right now on narcissism, and that's Professor Dr. Sam Bogdan. He's also a medical doctor. Well, anyway, um, my question to people is, have you noticed, like with, I have dyslexia, or people that have, and like speech impediments or whatever, we know this is like neurological, but like with narcissism or schizophrenia or psychopathy or sadism, like some of the worst tetrad traits. I'm tongue twisting today, excuse me. But, how many of these are head injury related or injury related? Because I've noticed people, like when I was working at a paraprofessional, and a lot of those disturbed children came from very abusive homes. And I know, like with narcissism, that stems from either neglect or abuse, or a combination of that type of thing. Um, Maybe even depression, like with the physical thing. That's why I've always said, like, the physical can become the mental, or the mental can become the physical in given situations. Say, like, if you have a physical ailment and it's going to affect your mental health, or if you have mental disabilities that can affect your physical self, you know. And that's where some doctors or psychiatrists are afraid to not only combine the two situations, but to acknowledge that there's a third, like the Trinity, there's a third aspect to our physical selves, which is the spiritual one that's inside of us. And like with people that are aware of spiritual warfare on this planet, or have experienced that yourself, even if it's people being physically or emotionally confrontational with you, that's still, they're playing a part in that spiritual war towards your physical self, but it affects your psyche. So just things that are on my mind, like usual. So, but I had dyslexia before I had a really bad head injury, and I did learn ways to cope with that and to learn how to read. When I'm tired, I'll mix numbers or see words, like misspell them. Thank God for spell check, but I'm still not the best at spelling. Sometimes it takes me quite a while even to make a title on my video, but and that happens with people that don't have any disability anyway. I know even too, when we get tired, we're more susceptible. Like, even if you don't have dyslexia, you might see in numbers like the end of a phone number, or like if it was like 3-4, you might see 4-3 or whatever, even if you're tired and you don't have that disability. We each have our own little idiosyncrasies, like parts of disabilities, but maybe not the whole thing type of thing. I've noticed that most human beings have some kind of affliction or ailment that they have to work through and work over. And that's what I was thinking about, getting things done even when you're struggling, because I'm trying to find the wherewithal to be able to write down things to take in and talk to my doctor about. And I don't know, I just find like in the medical community and whatnot, they always want to send me to a specialist, and I have different things going on. One specialist is not going to be able to cover the whole gamut of what's going on with me, so I really have nowhere to turn, and I end up looking like a flippin' idiot anytime I try to get some help. It's like uh, going to the CDC I had before that. Some of you know, plugs taken out of my skin, one side of my thigh and down by my knee, and my head scraped, and they took pieces out of my flesh and sewed me back up and sent them to the CDC. Came back with unknown fluke. Okay, so I have this parasite. They cannot identify that. Some scientists have put a name on these things. It's closely related to cystosomiasis, but it has two other elements to it. So it's something really freaky. Yeah, they can't identify it. But, so they can't identify it, and I get no help for it. Oh, we can't identify this by, you know, not, gee, it's draining her system and we don't care, that type of thing. And I have some other chronic things going on. It's like, oh, that's not bad enough. You're keeping strong, so we don't care about you. And that's what I'm going through today. Just a little history on that. But yeah, I did get my exercises done. I haven't really done much more. I talked to a social worker on the phone about my health care. I don't even use it. I haven't used it for a very long time. I'm considering it, but I still think that I shouldn't have to, because these people should have put things together for me. That's what they were paid for, and nobody's um, taking the whole of the situation and saying, okay, now we finally get it. But so I'm going to try and make something happen for myself besides just my, not just because my YouTube channel has become a good tool to talk to either family or friends, or, I talk about a lot of health care, a lot of emotional health, spiritual health, that type of thing. So, yeah. Cheers, everybody. So I've had a kind of a weird day. But I still don't think the medical community is combining the whole thing with emotional. So your mental health, your physical health, and the spiritual health. It's a trifecta, and they're not. They're doing a disservice to people, in that respect. And I think they feel bad too because they fall short in certain ways. I'll give you a scenario. How your hands can be tied in a medical situation or more emotional care. I was a counselor and a TMA at a drug rehabilitation center, and the head nurse there and I thought it best that these people had vitamins in their diet because some of them were lacking in nutrition because of their drug use or alcohol use, that type of thing. So we knew that their bodies were suffering and there was no way to get enough of certain like vitamin B12 or whatever they were lacking into these people's diets. And we found that the state was more apt to want to give these people prescription drugs than they were to let like their medical cover a vitamin, like a multiple vitamin for these people. And we pushed for that to get them their vitamins that they really needed badly. Anytime you're suffering with something physical, your body might even crave vitamins that you're just not getting enough because your body's lacking in another area. So, but for a while, our hands were tied because we were begging and pleading to get these vitamins for these people, and they just did not want to do it. Then there was other medical professionals that started stepping up in the same, you know, uh, area of thought. Like we give prenatal vitamins and their prescription for people that are pregnant, that we could do the same thing with people that had uh, alcoholism, that is a disease. I personally don't believe it is a disease, but this is the medical terminology. That's what we have to go with. But like everything in life, things are choices. So like that. But so how a person's hands could be tied within the confines of any institute that we're working in to try and help people, our hands could be entirely tied. Like a lot of psychiatrists now are going through things like say you have a kid and it comes in and it says, well, I'm a little boy, but I feel like I'm a little girl. Now, a lot of psychiatrists' hands are being tied. Like, if you don't, like, cater to this little person's mindset when they're tiny, that you're in jeopardy of losing your license, or that the parents, if the parents don't agree with the people in the establishment or what that little kid is saying, that the parents are in jeopardy of child abuse, which is totally ridiculous, but it's happening in California as we speak. So these things are all real as far as what you can do, the confines of what we can do according to the so-called professionals, the Board of Health, the Board of Education, whoever, wherever. We can only do so much, but too, to be able to go into well, say if you wanted something to change within your school system, you can't do it by sitting at home. You would actually have to go into like parent teacher conferences and try. I've talked to school board members before and different people a little higher up in the playing field, because to get something done you have to contact the people that can help you achieve that. You can't do it just by wishing for it or talking about it like out on Facebook. Yeah, it's a good medium to get ideas out there and bounce ideas off of each other. But to actually get in the trenches and go and do something that you want to see a change in something, you can't do it by just sitting there wishing for it, you know? So, but then again, you can try and try and try for many years and it might not come out the way you want it to, no matter how hard you work towards that. So, I mean, sometimes it just doesn't work. But, yeah. Oh, well. I'll give you another scenario where people's hands were tied. Excuse me. When I was working at the kitchen for the same school district I went working at the boys' ranch for, but I was working in a high school kitchen, a janitor before that, but it was part-time. I was putting in full-time hours in the kitchen, and there was some other women, but people in that same school district doing the same thing. So um, we got together with uh, the union was there and trying to get those that were labeled part-time employees to be able to get their medical insurance because they were working full-time hours, but the state didn't want to go for it, that type of thing. That's why I did go to the other job, because it was a full-time job. And, but I mean, just little weird things like that. McDonald's does that to people. They will hire you part-time. Walmart does that to people. And then they don't want to give you your benefits. If they hire you part-time, give you 39 hours instead of 40, and then they can just, what, well, what they do is, I was actually part of a class action lawsuit with Walmart because of their baloney. But yeah, I've been through some really weird things in my life. So, but yeah. So I don't know. I'm just thinking about how physical ailments, because I know when I'm a little more tired, I have a hard time with, like even my speech. Some days you might see a difference in that, because like after my stroke, I couldn't even talk. But when I'm tired, I notice that I'll have more problems in that area than I do. And that's kind of a struggle too, but I work through it. So like you've seen me, if I like mumble up a word, and we all do anyway, but I just keep going, you know. I'll try and say it. If I can't get it right, you've seen me do that, it's like, well, you know what I mean, or I'll supply another word for it, it's doesn't happen often, but it, you know, I'm not Barbara Walters, Barbara Wawa. I think she sort of had a speech impediment too, but she was a pretty cool reporter. I don't know, is she still working? Don't know. Oh, yeah. So I'm just, like I say, trying to get up the energy, actually, the mental energy to make a list of everything. I mean, if you've seen the 4 pages of my allergies and all that entails, and you thought everything you use, do, and eat in your life, if it was on that list, would you be suffering in any way? First off, yeah, you would, but yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah, and that's just part of it, you know. But so I just have to find the right person that cares, that can just put it, I mean, just my allergies alone, they should be able to look at it and say, whoa, life's hard, right? Yeah, you could just imagine. I have a video with my allergies. I read them off and then I had missed a few and had to come back. This was about 3 years old. I think the video is called uh, Mayo Clinic Skincare Test. You know, it took me 2 weeks. 1 week I had to have this tape on my back with different allergens, and then they did it for another week. Come to find out, I was allergic to the adhesive and the plastic that the tape was made out of, so just that suffering alone was a trip, but yeah. So, and then they found out and they gave me pills and told me I could buy their special shampoos and soaps, and that a normal person couldn't even afford. It doesn't matter if you make really good money, still could barely afford, $15 for something that big around and that tall. Or a special bar of soap for like, what, $7 or something? Yeah. So I just try to find the ones that aren't as harmful for me, which isn't an easy thing. But anything like even soaps, and they say if it's fragrance free or whatever, still going to have petroleum and sulfates, and there's all kinds of other things that I think if I'm allergic to it, most people probably are also. I've kind of always felt like that. I've tried to get my sons and my offsprings to look at what I'm allergic to and try and weigh it against like what they have in their lives and see if they were to eliminate like one thing, is there any change in your life? And I'm sure there's a lot of things in people's lives, like you'll eat something and it just does not agree with you. Well, you would eliminate it from your diet, but if you're like lactose intolerant and you weren't aware of that and you had like bloating or whatever, there's different symptoms you can have because of that. Luckily, that's not one of my allergies, but if it were, um, and then if a person didn't realize what these symptoms were, if they had bloating and headache and they were tired, or if they had diarrhea or constipation, different things can happen. And they may not even realize what's going on with their body. It's the same like if I eat potatoes, I have leg cramps so bad it's like worse than Charlie horses. The same with canned goods. Different things will do this to me, and then I end up like in the middle of the night. It happens anyway. Like right now, as I'm talking, my toes are trying to curl up on me. It's worse than neuropathy. It's painful. Um, but in the middle of the night when it happens, I end up having to stand up just to get rid of the pain. I put my foot in my slipper really quick and stand up, and it's like a wave of pain almost passing out. And then when it subsides a little bit, I try and lay in a way where I can put my foot on top of the one that's doing that to me and try and hold it still so it doesn't curl up on itself again. I have a lot of weird things going on in my life that, like that in the middle of the night, and, you know, even if I watch my diet. like now. I fast all day, usually every day. So, and eat at night a nice meal. But so I haven't ate anything that's causing me anything weird with my foot. It's just happening by itself right now, you know. So, yeah, I guess the physical does become the mental because I feel like a basket case right now. So, yeah, I'm a little retarded in that area. Hope that made y'all laugh. Like I would say that about myself. Yeah, I have been regressed. Yeah. The most regressed I've ever been is letting the wrong people too close to me, and that'll cause you a regression. Yeah. Just being funny. Especially for my narcissist friend that realizes his ailments and was able to write about it, it's like, yeah, at least for somebody to recognize that they have like a predatory nature and to stay away from people voluntarily, kudos, got to give you credit for that. At least you're not out there pretending you're a nice person and then just waiting till they believe you and then springing up on, like, pulling your mask off and saying, oh, but wait, there's more. I'm actually psychotic, you know? Yeah. And that happens all the time. No matter where, there's people, crazy people all around. So every single one of us, according to the experts who also hear voices, but they won't admit it's spiritual, like either God or Satan, and then you're in there, and then you hear voices of your parents. See, it's not an actual voice, but memories. But what's in our soul, in our system, the spiritual, those are feelings, those voices are actually real, admittedly by the professionals that won't call it spiritual warfare because they'd be leaving out that demographic of people that don't believe in God, and so they wouldn't make money off of those ones. So they can't use that in the um, scale, the measurements of what psychosis is, you know, because they would have to admit that there's a spiritual war going on. So it's easier to call it schizophrenia, you know. What if like, I know somebody's schizophrenic, but they have God in their heart, but they're struggling, and everybody around them, they're not um even thinking of God, but they're easy to put a label on that one person that they're calling schizophrenic when they admittedly have those same feelings and voices within themselves, and they're calling it something else, like, oh, well, like if it's narcissism and you live within your own world and you talk to yourself in there, same thing as schizophrenia, you know? But isn't it identical, you know? So, because the DM, that what, the measurement of what mental health is changing as we speak. They're trying to rewrite the definition of narcissism, for instance, to make it more glorified and gloss over the whole thing like it's actually really not a mental handicap, Well, anytime you're a predatory nature towards another human being and can actually inflict enough emotional, mental damage on another human being where it sets that human being back, that's a mental illness. I mean, like I've always said, I can't prove evil, but I can prove criminally insane, you know? If not criminally insane, well, insane, you know? Depends on the psychopathy to go along with it, but they're all psychopic up to a point because anytime you're a devouring type nature, well, that's psychopathy, you know? And I was thinking, of course, they're trying to rewrite it so it doesn't look like it's a very big deal because um, a lot of like so-called go-getters out in this world, they're very narcissistic and it could be like a valuable asset to a company if like attorney, if you don't have any actual emotional attachment in a case or something, then your uh, conscience doesn't play a role in any of the outcomes, so you'd be a valuable asset. If you had to defend a murderer and you knew they were guilty, you wouldn't care. So being a narcissist could be a good thing in a law firm, you know, or a medical doctor that would want to make money off of giving a child gender changing drugs. That's not a loving individual. That's a narcissist, a child abuser that's willing to make money off of people, period. You know, the same with the pharmaceutical companies that know that they're harming other people. I mean, they can change what's dangerous in 10 years. It's not dangerous now, but 10 years later, they'll come out and say it was because the studies haven't been done. How could you possibly do a study on a drug when the effects could be into the next generation through the mother into the baby? How do we know? They don't know either. That's my point. Yeah. Like when I had all these bad things happen to me a while back, quite a while, um, and I had sadness in my heart, and then the doctor's trying to give me pills for depression. It's like, dude, I'm not depressed. I'm sad. You know, there's a big difference. Yeah, we all have sorrows, that's a fact, but there's no pill for it. There's nothing you can do except for have God in your heart and try to have one happy spot in your day. That's my recommendation for anybody who's suffering with any kind of dark triad trait or depression or any of that. Um, find one thing in your life that makes you happy through the day. Hopefully, it's a healthy thing, you know, music or, something cool, good for you. you know, Maybe not a whole chocolate cake, but like a half of one. No, I'm just kidding. Although I did have chocolate cake last night. Shouldn't have, but I did. So I have to be careful today what I eat because, yeah, for that reason. Or I'll suffer for it. And we all do in one way or another, when we don't eat right. But you do have to have, I guess you don't have to have treats, but I was going to say, but you do have to have treats. But mm, I don't know, I went about 20 years where I wouldn't even touch sugar. You couldn't make me. and then everything changed, and I reverted to my childhood ways. Where's the chocolate, you know? Yeah. Over on Facebook, I put out, two of them, like, little posts, like, from OMG or WOW yesterday. There was a couple of my friends that knew me well enough they could answer this. I could pick 4 foods, one I liked or one I didn't like, and one of one I didn't like and 3 I did. So I picked dairy products, pizza, and avocados. And the one I didn't like was candy corn. And there was a couple of my friends and Doug knew that. And then with the beverages, you could pick one you didn't like, which was pumpkin spice latte. And then the ones I did like, I picked a cappuccino and espresso and um, black coffee. So, and I had a couple people that knew, like, how well do you know your friend? And they did. It's like, hey, cool, you're thinking like me, you know, as far as food and other things, so that I noticed out of them too. So, yeah, not allergic to avocados either. So and I love them. So that's a good thing. And did you know in Florida they have avocados that big, sometimes a little bit bigger, but they're just huge. And the seeds a little bigger inside of them. And they're just as good, I think, as far as like Brazilian or Mexican, the Haas. That's pretty good. I can't remember the name of them gigantic ones, but I wish I had a seed. Hey, if any of you are from Florida, send me a avocado seed or 2 or 3. I had some avocado growing, but they got bumped and then they got cold. Yeah, I have to have put them in a spot where they won't get cold, and then the sunlight thing is a factor here in this climate also. But I think I've got it solved. I used to have way more tropical plants, but I let some of them expire because I had so many of them. I couldn't do it anymore. So anyway, yeah. So what do you think about that head injury theory? Because I do know, like with Parkinson, neurological diseases, like some of them can even stem from nutrition. Now they're finding out we can lack nutrition. Like you could break your arm, and of course your body's going to require more calcium to repair that, and vitamin E. But what if it was causing a mental ailment along with that physical ailment? That's my point. It's like what happens to little people when they're little. Is there any kind of a direct medical journal or children's books that we could start getting out there for parents and little people to guard against a child growing up to have schizophrenia or ADD or whatever the case may be? There's or narcissism, which is becoming more rampant on our earth. What kind of literature can we put out there for parents and little people that can make them healthier human beings as they're growing up? You know, like you're not taught mental health or narcissism or any of that type of thing when you're in school, unless you take psychology of some sort. Like if you go into the medical field in any way, then you're going to, or public service in some different ways, they'll take a certain amount of psychology. But in general, like these people who are teaching your children really don't know a whole lot about the human condition, the psyche of a human being, but yet they're teaching them whatever they're teaching them. Yeah. And for some of you, if you're new here, unless I mark it different, which is only a couple videos, my videos are never made for children, and I don't smoke around children. If their parents do, that might be one thing, but if I go somewhere, I always ask, or I just keep it concealed. But so this is like my private channel. This is like my time talking to the world, and I am not talking to children unless I specifically say different, which I do have another channel called the Barbie Weiss channel that I started up about a month ago just to talk to the youth on dating out in this world now and the way things are, and like the spiritual attachment that can happen when we come in close contact with other human beings, not just the physical nature of the ailments that we can get. There's a whole thing if something's off with a person, and then having that in our lives as a part of our lives, and whether we adapt to that or not, it's still going to affect us. It's like the company you keep, birds of a feather type of thing. You have to be a awful special feather to go in what would be a dangerous atmosphere and not pick up those habits that you're surrounded by, you know. So, yeah, so anyway, I talk about the dangers of dating and that type of thing on that channel once a week. I made it Wednesday videos. I have a link to it here on and to my Facebook. Anybody and everybody, you're more than welcome to go on my Facebook, follow or friend. I have always a laugh over there. There's always medical information, political, you name it, everything. Kind of like here, you never know what's going to come out of my mouth. Neither do I a lot of times. So just beware, you know. A little bit ago it said mostly cloudy and it looked like rain, and now it says partly cloudy. I don't know. It looks all hazy to me. So I don't know. I have no clue what it's going to do. It got about 40 degrees last night, which was pretty cold. I have to start thinking about, some of you know I made a turn Doug's carport into a kitty house for feral kitties, and I brought one of them that had a broken leg, two compound breaks, and her shoulder was severed. And now after I taped it up and started doing, I used to be a physical therapist aide. When I first went into nursing, was in the retirement home, and then adjacent to it down in Cambridge, Minnesota, where I took my nursing schooling, was a physical therapist, and I started helping her and learned a lot about rehabilitation and was able to heal myself in a lot of ways because of that too, because a lot of the doctors I went to were a little bit lame in that area, but thank God I had some of that training. Well, anyway, with this cat, her bones fused together and her shoulder seems to be, well, it isn't flopping anymore. And a year later, she can put weight on her leg. And I've got a video, she's waving at you with it. It's kind of crooked. Not here, just her paw, because I could only tape these two breaks. I couldn't tape her whole paw in there or she would have got infected, and I couldn't stabilize her shoulder. And I knew if I took her to the vet, what I couldn't afford on a stray cat anyway. We already have one we took in, but there's still like about 8 of them out there. And I make sure they have heated water and food all through the winter, and it's a little extra work, but I have to go out there and clean their kitty house, air it out, and get them ready for winter because it's getting a little chilly out now for them. So, yeah. I found one frozen in our shed a long time ago, about over 30 years ago. And I told myself I will never see another stray animal suffer if I can do something about it. So there you go. And I've found homes for these people. I had one woman, she was just pissed off at me. She's like, I had kitties. I put an ad like on Craigslist or something. And she was just about like swearing at me. You people who get these animals and don't take care of them. And I'm like, whoa, chill, lady. I'm taking care of other people's animals here. Just give me a break. It was like, turn the spigot off, you know? So anyway, I'm concerned about them today. Not too bad. I mean, they still can go in their house and they've got little houses in there. But I just got to go out and air out their bedding, and I'm thinking maybe if we can get a couple bales of straw to put in there for more bedding, because they've got like old blankets and different things I put in there. And but if I can make it a little better this year, I'm going to. But yeah. So we ended up putting a rubber roof on it, and I built another wall, and because it was a carport, and Doug helped me build another wall with a door in it, and then cut a kitty door in there with a flap, and so they can go in. And it's got windows in there in the front of their house so they can get sunshine in the winter time. And yeah, so just a hobby, a stupid hobby that costs more money, but what do you do? Do you let them just, oh, it's like the woodchucks we have in our yard, and yeah, they dig holes, and they're digging under Doug's shop, and he's put metal there to stop them, and we have wood piles now that other ones, because they had babies, had moved to. But I was watching a video where this woman was talking about how her neighbor had set fire to these little critters that were under their shed, the same woodchucks or, groundhog, that type of animal. Set fire to the poor little things because they were under there. I thought, well, and that was in Canada. I don't know what would be different if they have any kind of DNR or somebody that they could call and relocate the animals or something, but to actually set fire to them, ugh, that's gross. I like my woodchucks. I have some videos of them, and the one main one I call her, I'm pretty sure it's a her, Chucky. I see her out the window, I go, "Chucky," and I wave, she smiles, she waves back at me, and she's got the prettiest smile, just a funny critter. Sometimes they run like the babies will, but she doesn't really run from my voice or anything. They're cool animals. I don't know how anybody could hurt them and not think twice about it, you know? Most people don't think animals have souls, but like I tell people, all animals on this planet cry. You know, and then I talk about like childbirth, how it says in the scriptures, you know, and the woman would travail in birth. Yes, some of us do, and it all hurts. Labor hurts. Yeah, but just this is because I can prove that the scriptures have been twisted and changed to benefit the churches that want to use different areas in life to make it look like human beings did something wrong when it's the fallen angels and they're playing games with people to make money off of them. It's their craft. That's their Masonic witchcraft within that whole system. And I'm sure if you work for like the state in any capacity, you're fully aware that there's higher up and then within communities and everybody kind of correlates like that or not. And if you're kind of an outcast or if you're too kind, they're fully aware of who you are. And I'm sure, like, even like if you go on a lunch break or something, that you're probably shunned in areas where these other witches aren't. Been through that several times, so I know. But, so anyway, with these crafts that these people use, it's all real. It really is. I'll get back to what I was saying anyway. It was something different than that, but I'll get there. Oh, travailing in childbirth. Well, horses like apples, but it wasn't a horse named Eve that took a bite out of an apple, and she doesn't cry during childbirth because she did anything wrong. If you see my point, cows cry. Um, they didn't do anything wrong. Dogs, cats, you watch any animal give birth, and them poor things are crying, and they didn't do anything wrong either. That's my point. The only wrong that was done was the satanic force trying to get its way because they're lazy and greedy and selfish. And that's still what's going on. And there's different books and scriptures that have been changed to benefit the wealthy that will remain wealthy because they want to pass their crafts and their arts on to their offsprings. It's the same with a medical doctor. Do you know that the first Hippocratic Oath incorporated not to tell anybody of their craft and to pass it on to their offspring? And then it changed over in England, and then it changed when it got to the Americas, but it still said at that point in that respect, first do no harm. Well, now they're changing that. They're actually taking that part out of it. What does that tell you about the medical field? You know, that's a spooky thought if you think about it. What, second do harm? Or first off, we don't have to even worry about that? Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with, how they're going to rewrite that one to benefit themselves. I haven't looked into it lately. I just heard tell that they were going to be changing it about a month ago. When I run across it, I'll let you know. I might look into it if I feel like I've accomplished some of my other goals I got going on right now, if I get some of them done. Otherwise, if I run across it, I'll share it. Maybe one of my doctor friends knows what I'm talking about, and you could share that, and then I can share it out. So, head injuries in little kids, even trauma. You know, think about when you were little, the first time you had fear. I don't know if it was in your own home or out in public or whatever, and how traumatic that was, and how all these weird things going on around little people. And I don't know what the adults think, like what, it doesn't affect them, or they don't see what's going on. They can't express what's in their mind, but they're born with the same mind you or I are. It's just that they can't get it out of their head yet. It's like a little baby. You'll hear him babble a whole complete sentence. It might have even made sense to the mom, if you know where I'm coming from with that. But in the expression on their little faces, that type of thing, like it's all there. you know, we're born, it's all there. It's like the word of God's written on our hearts. Day one, that spark of life, that's who we are, that's our soul. And then we have to actually take physical steps, down a step, down another step. The further you get away from God, the easier it is to keep going down those steps. People don't realize it. It's like they'll take one step down. It doesn't seem like a big deal until they've taken several. Some realize it, then you're like, oh, yeah, that isn't cool. And then you straighten yourself up. That's your conscience. That's the word of God written on your heart. We don't need a book for that, you know. And I'm not against reading the scriptures. That's not what my point is. I just tell people, read, if you're not going to go into, if you're not a linguist or a theologian or a historian, then you're better off just reading it with your heart and let the Spirit of God or Christ, whoever you believe in, let that Spirit go through you for your discernment. And it's just like, and that's kind of what I was thinking today. I was just going to make a video on, since when are adults worried about any kind of or misinformation? I mean, for thousands of years, people were able to decipher for themselves what was good or bad. I mean, you hear something and you either accept it or you don't accept it. Do we really need any public officials and figures of authority telling us how to think now, and how to determine what's right or wrong for ourselves, or what would be misinformation? What might be information for one person could be disinformation for another. Who's to determine that? If I tell you that, just say, if I say, like, nightshade vegetables aren't good for anybody, well, somebody that's a vegan could totally come against that and say, you don't know what you're talking about, and that's misinformation. Well, actually, no, it's not. I'm allergic to it. So for me, that's information. For somebody else, that's different disinformation. So who's to determine what's of value to another human being? Especially in our country with freedom of speech, you know? which this platform is guilty of treason as far as taking that freedom away. So, but then so is the news media, and so is our government. And then don't get me started on the selling of adopted babies. Yeah. And for the record, if you're new here, I believe in orphanages because I was raised by Masons and I did not belong in their family, although I think that's where God wanted me to be, so I could learn of their ways and let everybody else know about it. But they always knew I had God in my heart, and I got punished for it all my life. Well, it didn't stop me. I think it kind of made me worse. And I did divorce him. I took him to court. I took the Masons to court when I was 17 and got emancipated, had a job and a roof over my head. I even went to technical school, a college at age 15. I got a waiver. I was trying to get out of there. But in the meantime, I kept getting in trouble for running away from the abuse. So it was kind of like a push and pull type of childhood. I tried to get away, they try and bring me back. But a person knows when something's not right in their life and they're going to try and get away from it, no matter what it takes. So I ended up looking like a degenerate because of the way other people were in my life at that time. I mean, I'll take responsibility. Yeah, I ran away, but I didn't do anything bad. I didn't become a whore or a drug addict or whatever. I'd like babysit, lived with a woman with 12 kids. She had so many she didn't know what to do after her husband died. So, it's like God put me in situations to help me out too. But oh, so there's a lot going on in the world that people on the surface, it looks like it's not really a big deal, but the forces of evil are working against good human beings, and if you don't toe the line, you'll suffer for it one way or another. The way the world is constructed right now, you will, not the hopes of what's to come. And I think through people like me, that's how we're making a difference, and we're able at least to be able to connect with other like-minded hearts and souls that we're sick of it and we're not taking it anymore type of feeling. And we want to make a change. We want to make a change in almost every area of our existence, because it isn't being done right by the higher ups because they're too greedy and too selfish. They don't care. It's all about control. So, not much on my mind today. Yeah, I know I'm a smart ass. My apologies. So, well, I think I'll leave it at there today. I get this uploaded. It does look like it might rain, so I'll get it out here. And um, I appreciate you joining me with all my heart. Have a really good night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA. Love y'all.